I've reviewed hundreds of portfolios from my big data energy community, and 90% make the same critical mistakes. They're building projects that look pretty, but they're not actually building projects that show the SQL skills and business skills that hiring managers want to see. And let's be honest, some of them don't even look pretty. Let's fix it. This is part of a killer data analyst portfolio series where I teach you from A to Z how to create a portfolio that will get you ahead of 99% of candidates on the job hunt. So go check out my other portfolio videos after this one. In the next 15 minutes, I'm gonna break down the 3 essential projects that you need to have in your data analytics portfolio. We'll look at real examples, walk through what makes them irresistible to employers, and I'll show you how to structure every single one of them. By the way, if you're completely new to SQL, go grab my free Intro to SQL course below. It'll help you build your first data analytics project in only 30 minutes, and then after that, you can level up to my beginner and intermediate level courses. And of course, make the most of this video too for your portfolio. Course links below, let's dive in. The first kind of project you need in your data analytics portfolio is an exploratory data analysis, or an EDA for short, and it's perfect for beginners. There's no set structure for an exploratory data analysis, and you don't need super advanced skills. You can cater the analysis to what your skill level is, which is why it's so great for people of all skill levels. An EDA is exactly what it sounds like. You're just exploring the data and just discovering things, seeing what you can figure out, asking questions, and then turning those into actual business insights. EDAs are the foundation of almost every data analytics project in the real world, and they're usually the foundation of the more advanced data analytics projects. Because how can you analyze data and do something super advanced if you haven't explored it yet to see what you have? You can't. Which is why step 1 of any data analytics project you do should be an EDA. And there's so many different types of skills that you can show in an EDA, like investigation, problem solving, curiosity, deriving insights, visualizing data, discovering trends, communicating and storytelling with data. The world is your oyster. For an EDA, you want to just kind of explore the data and massage those insights out. I actually hate it when people say massage like that in business and the real world. It gives me the ick. Here are the things that you need to do an EDA. First, of course, import your data. Next, you're gonna see what you have. How many rows, what types of columns, what are the data types of those columns, what's the business context you're working with, and what does the data actually mean to the business. Next, you're gonna wanna see if there are any missing values, any duplicates, any anomalies or inconsistencies. And if so, are those things that you should clean up or edit? What do they mean in the context of the business? Because of course, sometimes nulls and duplicates are okay and they're there for a reason, but if not, that might be something you want to clean up later. Next, you're going to want to summarize the data with descriptive statistics. So basic stats for the most important variables. So mean, median, mode, average, sum, median. Did I say median twice? Standard deviation, anything that might be useful to you later on. And then you also want to check the distribution of your variables. So maybe making a histogram or just getting a count for all the different categories of your variables. And what the ranges are too, because that'll help you spot outliers. And you can do a lot of this by visualizing your data and just playing around with a bunch of different histograms, bar charts, line graphs, just see what you see. Next, you're gonna wanna spot patterns and relationships, maybe between the variables, maybe over time, just see how everything is kind of connected and working together. And the last part is gonna be summarizing and communicating your results and turning those into actual business insights that leaders can use. And of course, EDAs can be as simple or complex as you wanna make them. But as you can see, EDAs use a lot of different types of skills, so they're the perfect project to put in your data analytics portfolio. Plus the fact that they're the foundation of any data analytics project and they're very accessible to data analysts of all levels. But remember, the most important part here is going to be communicating your insights. Throwing a bunch of code and ugly dashboards into a portfolio is not going to land well. The second project you need in your data analytics portfolio is super underrated. It's a funnel analysis. I don't see people talking about these enough, but they're the perfect project to show that you can actually answer a real business problem and use a bunch of different types of skills. A funnel analysis is basically tracking something through a bunch of different phases, and they're very popular when it comes to marketing and product. So think about a bunch of users on a website, and then you're tracking how many click a certain button, how many go to the checkout page, and how many purchase. You're tracking all of those users through a funnel or a series of steps, and at every step, you lose users along the way. So this type of project is super valuable because you can track something over time, you can see where the fallout is, and see why something is successful or isn't successful. And it's really good for tracking user behavior and marketing campaigns and product functionality, but most importantly, it uses and showcases a lot of intermediate data analytics skills, such as data wrangling, data transformation, data cleaning, translating a business business problem into data and code, project scoping, developing insights, making business recommendations to non-technical stakeholders, and data storytelling. So you'll notice this project not only uses a lot of technical skills, but also a lot of soft skills as well. And by the way, in my intermediate SQL course, we actually do a payment funnel analysis. And I'm gonna actually show you an old example of a product funnel analysis that I did many years ago, and this exact project helped me land multiple six-figure data analytics jobs. And the project in my intermediate course is completely identical to this one, just changed and with different data. For this project, I wrote a SQL query that actually categorizes all the statuses in the database into different categories. And in that query, there's a lot of data cleaning, data transformation, data wrangling, and actually translating business logic into code. And then I used that query to pull the data into Power BI so I could visualize every step of the funnel that I was tracking, which helped me identify successful orders and fallout and communicate it clearly to stakeholders. And all of these metrics and KPIs were such valuable insights for the company because it gave us such insight into what was working in our payment process, what wasn't, why it wasn't working, and we actually made business decisions off of this dashboard I made in Power BI and improved our payment process. But probably most of the hiring managers didn't even look at my SQL code or my dashboard PDF. What they probably looked at was the README page. The README page is a high-level overview of the entire project. We have the executive summary, the business problem, the methodology, the skills, the results, and the next steps. And that is what I think got me all of my six-figure data analytics jobs, because it was a project I could actually talk about in interviews and show that I understand the actual business problems and the results, not just the code and technical skills. And again, if you don't want to have to figure out how to do your own funnel analysis by yourself, just go grab the one in my intermediate course. I make it super easy, and it worked super well for me to land multiple six-figure data jobs. The third project you absolutely need in your portfolio to stand out is a full stack project. A full stack project is taking an entire project from beginning to end. That means starting out with very messy data, cleaning it, transforming it, preparing it for analysis, doing all that in SQL, and then bringing it into a data visualization tool or a BI tool like Power BI or Tableau, visualizing it and presenting it to stakeholders. Especially nowadays, companies want to hire data analysts who can manage that entire pipeline from messy data to actual insights and presentation. So that means using skills like data cleaning, data transformation, ETL, extract, transform, load, data modeling, so building entity relationship diagrams, data visualization, finding business recommendations, and storytelling to stakeholders. So basically everything from the most technical to the least technical, a balance of hard skills and soft skills. And if you're a very observant person, you might have noticed that I switched out my laptop because I'm about to show you an example of how to do this in Power BI, and Power BI is not that great on Macs. So boom, switch to my PC laptop. How the hell do I record on this thing?
3 hours later.
Okay, sorry y'all. I finally figured out how to record my screen on a PC. I am a woman in tech, not a woman in technology, okay?
She's an icon.
So here's an example of how you can show understanding of a full stack data analytics project in Power BI to put in your portfolio. I also want to say there are so many different tools you can use. You can use Power BI, you can use Tableau, you can use Looker, you can import Excel files, you can import CSV files, you can actually connect to your SQL database. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this, and I'm going to show you a few options as I talk through this. So a really great way to do this is to actually connect to a SQL Server database in Power BI. That way you're connecting to like a live database. So you can get that live data feel, and it feels a little more real world than just using Excel files. But I'll be honest, I don't have a SQL Server database set up, and I did not set one up for this video. So I just exported data into Excel, which you can totally do too, by the way. You can write the data in SQL, use a query to pull and wrangle and prepare the data, and then just download it as a CSV or Excel file and import it into Power BI. And obviously in the real world, you're not going to be importing very many CSVs or Excel files into Power BI because that data becomes stale or old very quickly. So it's always better to connect to like an actual live changing data source. So if you do download your SQL outputs and import Excel files, I would make note of that in your portfolio. This is not best practice. I'm just doing it for the project purposes. So here I imported my orders and products tables. And then in Power BI, you can click Transform Data and go to the Power Query Editor. If you're also familiar with Excel, Excel has this too. In the Power Query Editor, you can see all the tables you have either imported via Excel or CSV, or created using SQL queries and connecting to a live database. By cleaning and transforming your data in your SQL queries and in Power BI, you're demonstrating that you know how to clean data, transform data, ETL data, which are all very important things when it comes to preparing the data for analysis. In the Power Query Editor, you can do things like changing the data type of different columns, replacing nulls, removing duplicates, replace values here, data type here, and you can also transform your data further by adding additional columns that you don't already have. So you can create conditional columns based on other values, and you can create brand new metrics and KPIs based on custom calculations. You can also merge together different Power BI tables, which is like doing a horizontal join in SQL, and you can append different tables, which is like doing a vertical union in SQL. And of course, for optimization, it's best practice to do most of these transformations and cleanings in SQL, not in Power BI, because SQL is always going to be faster moving around large amounts of data. But I do think Power BI is a very beginner-friendly way to learn these skills because it does have the UI, so it's a little easier if your coding skills aren't completely built up yet. Once you transform an ETL and clean your data, then you can go into the data model section of Power BI, and this is where you can define the relationships between all of your different tables. So here I've defined the relationship between my products and orders table to be on product ID, a one-to-many relationship between product and orders. So now in my project, I'm demonstrating skills like data modeling and understanding relationships between tables. And then going back to the workbook, we can actually build visualizations with our data now. We can create different charts and drag and drop different fields from our tables, even the ones that we created in the Power Query editor. So then you can create custom visualizations and build out an entire dashboard. And yes, I know these visualizations I made in like 2 seconds are not a good example. You would want to clean up all of your axes, make better metrics and calculations, and not have a pie chart with 100 different colors. But I think you can see the overall vision. Here's an example that I did in Power BI to visualize a bunch of data for non-technical stakeholders. I did this exact process in Power BI where I pulled in a bunch of data with SQL queries using a database connection, transformed all the data, ETL'd it, built the data model, and then visualized through dashboards. So building out a project like that in your portfolio is going to show hiring managers with confidence that you can handle an entire data analytics project from beginning to end. Because it's not always just about the visualizations or the SQL queries you write, it's about the entire process of getting from step A to step Z. And again, there's so many ways that you can show a full stack project and so many different tools that you can use, but that's just one example of one that I've done many times in the past. I would also love to point out that these 3 projects that we've talked about today, the exploratory data analysis, the funnel analysis, and the full stack project, those don't necessarily need to be 3 different projects. You can totally accomplish all of these all in one big project because there's no set number or amount or length of projects that you need in your portfolio. You just need what you need to show that you have all the right skills. So you could technically do a full stack project from end to end that starts with an EDA and ends with a funnel analysis. Boom, 3 in 1. But it's also fine to isolate each of those ideas and work on them separately as you're learning. These 3 projects will prove that you can think like a senior data analyst from day one. But here's the thing, building great projects is only half of the battle. You also need to present them in a portfolio that actually gets noticed by hiring managers. If you want to see how to structure these 3 projects in a portfolio that stands out from every other lame job application, check out my portfolio setup guide video next. I'll also leave my SQL courses in the description below, intro, beginner, and intermediate, in case you're ready to level up your SQL skills. Sending you lots of big data energy this week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!